Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now have the opportunity to yield 5 minutes of time to my esteemed friend and colleague, the gentlelady from California, Ms. Millender-McDonald.
The gentlewoman from California is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the distinguished gentleman for yielding the time to me. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased that we're having this open discussion and this debate on Iraq. But let me first make my position very clear. I did not vote on this war. After 9/11, when the President urged military action against Osama bin Laden, I, like all other members, were fully supportive of that position and voted to send our troops to Afghanistan. Despite the heroic efforts of our armed services and armed forces, Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of America's darkest hour, has yet to be brought to justice. While the search for bin Laden has not been completely abandoned, President Bush turned his attention away from our most deadly adversary and devoted our military resources into invading Iraq. The search for bin Laden was neglected for a search for weapons that were never found and perhaps may have never existed. The one thing is very clear here, Mr. Speaker. All members of this Congress support our troops. Many of us have been with them at the loss of a loved one. Many of us have gone to visit them. And on Memorial Day, I give special recognition to those whom I have lost in my district in the state of California. Also, I have a special community pride where I give the names of all of those whose lives were gave the ultimate sacrifice. So let it be very clear that the members of this Congress support our troops. Now, while the war has hindered our search for Osama bin Laden, it is shocking and regrettable that Iraq is more of a breeding ground for terrorism than it was before we invaded in March of 2003. So many Americans in my district throughout the nation have fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters who are being placed in harm's way by being deployed 2 or more times to Iraq. Transfixed and horrified, we watched an escalation in violence that has all the characteristics of a civil war. Now, we recognize that on November the 7th, the American people asked for a new direction, but they also asked for the truth as we know it. We know that there are too much rhetoric surrounding this issue, but the truth is, first, the President's proposal for an escalation or resurgence is a flawed strategy that will put more than 21,500 more Americans in harm's way. In fact, this escalation leaves Americans and Iraqis in a perpetual state of war, a condition that is not sustainable or supportable. Secondly, Iraq's problems are best solved by Iraqis. While a number of American troops will be needed to continue training operations of Iraqi forces, it will only be successful if those living in Iraq, the Sunnis, the Shiites, and the Kurds alike, fully embrace democratic principles and work together to make their nation secure. Thirdly, I support the principal recommendations of the Iraq Study Group, that we engage Iraqi neighbors such as Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, and others in problem solving. The President's plan should emphasize diplomacy. There is no commander-in-chief that I know of that did not during a war engage in diplomacy. That's the answer, not military force. And this type of position that the President is going in is a brute force that will not deter the insurgency. Any viable solution must contain a diplomatic element. Mr. Speaker, the House has taken 4 days to debate the war because clearly we need a sensible resolution to this quagmire. Democrats have borne much criticism for bringing this resolution to the floor, but it is fair to remind our Republican detractors that they also brought non-binding resolutions to the floor. What it is to really send a message to the American people that we are moving in the wrong direction. Stay the course is not the course to take. The resolution we are considering today is entirely straightforward, and the premise is simple. Do you or do you not support the President's insurgency? The resolution before us marks the first time this chamber will vote whether or not to disagree with the President's war plans. I hope that everyone who recognizes that this stay the course is not the issue, that we vote for Resolution 63. It's an important step. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman